Picture this. You're digging deep into the earth, splitting open ancient layers of rock, nearly 3 billion years old. And hidden inside, you find these perfectly shaped metallic spheres. And some have these strange, precise grooves carved right into them. They seem completely, utterly out of place. This isn't science fiction, though. It's the real-life puzzle of the Klerksdorp Spheres, genuinely one of the strangest and most enduring mysteries in, well, maybe not just archaeology, but geology too. Today, we're really going to try and cut through all the layers of speculation, get right to the core of this enigma.
Exactly. And our mission today, our deep dive, is to journey into how they were found, explore the official scientific explanations, but also delve into some of the wilder conspiracy theories that have naturally spun up around them, and maybe unpack the cultural fascination. Why do we care so much about these out-of-place artifacts? The goal isn't just to figure out what they might be, but really understand why they spark such fierce debate and capture so many imaginations.
Right. So think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to getting properly informed about this whole fascinating puzzle. Hopefully you'll have a few aha moments about history, geology, and maybe just human curiosity itself.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's peel back these layers then. Our story really kicks off back in the 1970s and 80s. We're in Ottosdal, South Africa. It's a small town pretty much known for its mining, specifically pyrophyllite mining.
Ah, yes, pyrophyllite. It's that really soft, almost soapy-feeling mineral, right? Used in talcum powder and things.
Exactly. That's the stuff. So miners are carving their way through these ancient deposits of it, and they start finding something unexpected, like embedded right in the rock. Small, metallic-looking spheres. They varied a bit in size, less than an inch up to maybe 4 inches across. Some round, some a bit flattened.
Okay, interesting on its own, but not necessarily mysterious yet.
Right. But here's the crucial detail, the thing that really grabbed everyone's attention. The grooves. Many of these spheres had 3 really distinct parallel lines, almost etched or maybe embedded right around their equators. They just didn't look, they didn't look natural. They looked crafted, maybe even machined. It's a striking image.
And that's where the geological context just hits you. Because these weren't just lying around, they were inside rock layers. Geologists have dated pretty firmly. We're talking 2.83 billion years old. You really have to pause and think about that time frame. Pre-Cambrian Earth. This was long before complex life even existed, billions of years before humans showed up. It's almost unimaginable.
It really is mind-boggling. And you can imagine once miners started finding these, they weren't just, chucked aside. They started ending up in museums, most famously the Klerksdorp Museum there in South Africa, which is how they got their name. And that's when the whispers of mystery really started getting louder.
Understandably so.
So let's zoom in a bit more on the spheres themselves. We said 0.5 to 4 inches, generally smooth surfaces. The colors varied sort of bluish, reddish brown. But those grooves, they just seem so strikingly uniform. That's the bit that hangs people up, I think.
It is. The regularity is hard to dismiss visually.
And then there's the composition. Things get even weirder here because reports kind of vary. Some are described as being this hard metallic material, solid. Others, though, reportedly have softer, almost fibrous interiors. And I've even read some really strange accounts, probably more anecdotal, about a few splitting open, revealing a hollow inside with some kind of spongy stuff that hardened when it hit the air. Have you come across that much?
That specific detail, the spongy interior hardening, does tend to be more on the anecdotal side of things, yes. It pops up in less formal accounts. But what is more consistently reported, and just as intriguing, is their alleged hardness. There were stories going around that some of these spheres were, harder than steel, that metal tools couldn't even scratch them. Now, whether that's scientifically precise or maybe got a bit exaggerated in the retelling, who knows? But it definitely added to this aura of, indestructibility, made them seem even more alien.
Right, adds to the mystique. And it doesn't stop there, does it? This is where it really tips over from geology into something, more peculiar, these persistent stories about spheres in museum cases actually rotating on their own, just slowly turning. No obvious reason.
Ah, yes, the rotating spheres. That's a classic element of the lore.
So some people saw that and thought, evidence of stored energy, maybe some weird magnetic field. Others, more grounded perhaps, put it down to simple vibrations. Museum visitors walking past, tiny shifts in air pressure, that sort of thing.
It's a perfect example of how the same observation can be interpreted in wildly different ways depending on your starting point.
Absolutely. Which brings us back crashing into that fundamental problem, the age.
Yeah.
Because once you factor in those billions of years, the debate just ignites, doesn't it?
It really does. Because, as we said, they're found in these pyrophyllite deposits, pre-Cambrian rock, 2.8 to 3 billion years old, confirmed by geologists. And you have to picture Earth back then. It's an alien planet to us. The atmosphere is only just starting to get oxygenated. Life exists, sure, but only as the simplest microbes. Single cells, no plants, no animals, definitely no tool-making civilizations, certainly no humans.
And that disconnect is precisely why these spheres become such poster children for out-of-place artifacts. OPARTs. For people who subscribe to this idea, if these things are artificial, they completely shatter our established timeline. It's like finding, I don't know, an iPhone inside a dinosaur fossil. It just shouldn't be there.
Unless
our entire understanding of history is fundamentally wrong. That's the implication. So how does mainstream science respond to that challenge? What's the official explanation?
Well, the geological consensus is actually pretty straightforward, though maybe less exciting for some. Geologists overwhelmingly identify these spheres as natural formations, specifically a type of concretion.
Okay, concretions. Explain that a bit. How do they form?
Sure. So a concretion is basically a hard, compact mass of mineral matter. It forms when minerals precipitate, sort of solidify around some kind of nucleus, maybe a grain of sand, a fossil fragment within sedimentary rock as it's forming. And this process can naturally result in very smooth, very rounded, often spherical shapes. It happens all over the world.
Okay, so nature can make spheres, but what about those incredibly regular grooves? That's the bit that seems manufactured.
Geologists have explanations for that too. They argue the grooves are simply the result of natural layering, like fine layers of sediment forming around the sphere as it grows. Or it could be due to something called cleavage, which is how minerals naturally break along certain planes. Or even differential weathering, where slightly different hardnesses within the surrounding pyrophyllite rock erode at different rates, leaving these lines etched onto the harder sphere.
Right, like rings on a tree almost, but formed by geology.
Sort of, yeah. Or think about how water carves lines into rock over time. Similar natural processes, just on a different scale and context.
Okay, so the bottom line from the scientific perspective is they look artificial, maybe remarkably so, but their symmetry and grooves are just fascinating accidents of nature. And maybe our human brains, hardwired to see patterns and intention, kind of magnify that into a mystery.
That's essentially the mainstream view, yes. Acknowledging they look strange, but explaining them through known geological processes.
It's logical, it makes sense. But you can see why, for a lot of people, that explanation feels, well, a bit unsatisfying maybe, given how precise they look in that staggering age.
Oh, absolutely. It lacks the romance, the sense of profound discovery that the alternative theories offer.
Which takes us right into that realm. What if they're not just concretions? This is where we step beyond geology and into, well, the extraordinary. One of the biggest ideas is that they're relics of some incredibly ancient, lost civilization.
Right. The theory here is that maybe advanced beings, not necessarily human as we know us, but intelligent beings existed way back, perhaps even during the Precambrian. And they created tools or artifacts, maybe even just decorative objects that somehow got buried and preserved in these rock layers.
The implications of that are just huge, aren't they?
Staggering. It would mean rewriting pretty much the entire history of life and intelligence on Earth. It forces us to think that maybe complex civilization isn't just a recent blip, but something that could have arisen and maybe vanished multiple times in Earth's deep past. This idea often ties into what's sometimes called forbidden archaeology. You have authors like Michael Cremo, for instance, who argue that mainstream science actively suppresses evidence that contradicts the standard timeline. In that view, the Klerksdorp Spheres aren't just anomalies, they're proof of a cover-up. Evidence that history is far, far stranger than we're taught.
Okay, so that's one direction, ancient Earth civilization. But what about pushing it even further out? What about the theory that they're not from Earth at all? Extraterrestrial artifacts.
That's often the next leap, yes. It's certainly more dramatic. Proponents here point to all the things we've mentioned. The metallic look, the supposed super hardness, those precise grooves. Could they be alien probes? Some kind of data storage devices, maybe even energy cells left behind by visitors billions of years ago.
And the location, South Africa, rich in minerals. That plays into it too, right?
It does fuel speculation. Maybe aliens were mining here, scouting resources, long before humans evolved. This connects very neatly, of course, with the whole ancient astronaut theory. Think Eric von Däniken, shows like Ancient Aliens. The spheres become another piece of potential evidence suggesting extraterrestrial involvement in Earth's very distant past.
Ancient civilization, ancient aliens. Then there's a third one, less common maybe, but just as mind-bending. Time travel.
Right, the time traveler hypothesis.
Yeah.
The idea here is, well, if beings, maybe future humans, maybe someone else entirely developed time travel, could they accidentally or maybe even deliberately leave things behind in the wrong era? So the Klerksdorp spheres could be like the ultimate lost luggage from a trip across the eons.
It's pretty wild, but it does solve the age problem in a different way, doesn't it?
It does. It allows for an artificial origin without needing a 3 billion-year-old civilization on Earth. It sidesteps that particular hurdle while introducing, obviously, a whole set of different challenges.
Right. Okay, so beyond these grand origin theories, we also touched on those more specific sort of paranormal claims. Let's revisit the rotating spheres in the museum, that persistent rumor.
Yes. Attributed by some to, unseen energies, weird magnetic fields. Maybe the spheres are still active somehow. Others claim they could feel vibrations or even hear faint humming sounds coming from them. Again, mostly anecdotal, but part of the lore.
And that hardness claim, too. The idea they couldn't be scratched by steel.
If that were actually verified, it would be incredibly significant. It would imply a material science far beyond anything we associate with the ancient world, let alone the Precambrian. It really adds to the mystique, suggesting some kind of technology or composition that just defies our understanding of that era.
And all of this, the age, the appearance, the weird stories, firmly places the Klerksdorp spheres into that broader category we mentioned. O-parts, out-of-place artifacts.
Exactly, objects that just don't seem to fit the historical or geological context where they're found.
And they're not alone, are they? There are other famous examples.
Oh, plenty. You've got the Antikythera mechanism, that's an incredibly complex geared device from ancient Greece, basically an astronomical computer, shouldn't exist according to standard histories of technology. Or the so-called Baghdad battery pots from ancient Mesopotamia that look suspiciously like they could have been galvanic cells, primitive batteries, even things like the London hammer, which is reportedly a modern-style hammer found encased in rock dated millions of years old, though that one's particularly contentious.
So these O-parts, including our spheres, really highlight a big divide, don't they?
Absolutely. You have the skeptics, often scientists, who argue most O-parts are misinterpretations of natural objects, like the spheres being concretions, maybe misidentifications, sometimes outright hoaxes. Logical explanations exist, they say, but then you have the believers who see these objects as crucial, tangible evidence. Proof that history isn't what the textbooks tell us, that there are hidden chapters, lost technologies, maybe even forgotten civilizations or visitations. It's a fundamental clash of worldviews, really.
And regardless of which side you lean towards, or even if you're just undecided, the cultural impact of the Klerksdorp spheres is undeniable. Since they became widely known, they've become absolute staples in mystery books, UFO lore, conspiracy websites, documentaries.
No.
They've really captured the public imagination.
They really have, and I think what they tap into, beyond the specific theories, is something deeper about us. They represent human curiosity, maybe, that desire to find wonder, to believe there's more out there than just the mundane. Or perhaps they symbolize the possibility of hidden truths, of entire worlds or histories beyond our current understanding. They feed that part of us that wants the universe to be mysterious and surprising.
It's true. There's that clear divide between the scientific explanation and the more speculative beliefs. But maybe the biggest group is just the curious. The people like us, and probably many listening, who just want to know more, even if definitive answers are hard to come by.
Precisely. The enduring appeal is in the question itself.
So, after digging through all this, where does that leave us? We're back to that core question. What are the Klerksdorp spheres? Are they just geological quirks? Concretions formed by chance over billions of years, their perfection fooling our pattern-seeking brains? Or are they relics? Remnants of a lost civilization, proving intelligence existed eons before we thought, or artifacts from alien visitors, silent witnesses to an ancient encounter, maybe even dropped by time travelers? Or are they simply stones that we've elevated into this grand mystery because we want there to be mystery?
You know, the absolute final, undeniable truth, we may never actually know for sure, but maybe that's okay, maybe that's even the point. These spheres, whatever their origin, stand as this powerful reminder that our planet still holds secrets, deep secrets. That beneath the surface of what looks like ordinary rock, there can be mysteries that genuinely challenge our sense of time, our history, and maybe even the limits of possibility.
That's a great way to put it.
And perhaps, just perhaps, these ancient objects whisper something across the millennia. That we're not the first ones to stand here, look at the stones, and just wonder, to question and to seek answers etched in the earth itself.
Absolutely. A reminder to keep questioning, keep exploring, keep digging. Because sometimes the strangest, most profound discoveries aren't waiting for us out in the stars. They might be buried right here, just beneath our feet.